You need to understand, every interaction and battle that Yeshua had with the Jewish leadership was an attempt by them to discredit or disqualify him by showing that he did something or taught something against the Torah. Yet, you as Christians are taught that the Torah is the problem and it was done away with. So to disqualify him, they wanted to get him to go against the Torah or misrepresent it or misrepresent it in terms of the way he would teach it or the way he would actually treat it or what they did. So if that's a problem, you're like, well, that was only a problem for the scribes and the Pharisees. It was a problem for everybody. If he had done those things, they knew the people wouldn't have listened to him anymore. He would have been disqualified in their minds. And yet, you guys have bought into and been sold, really, this idea from Christianity that the Torah was the problem. Don't you believe Yeshua could have said at any point, the law is not the point? Couldn't he have said that at any point? No, he didn't say that in Mark 7 or anywhere else. He could have said that, but he didn't. As a matter of fact, when the young man came to him and said, how do I receive eternal life? He said, keep the commandments. He promoted them in a positive fashion, not as a problem. It wasn't until we get Christianity to make them a problem. Okay, that's the problem. We got to remember, the problem for them was they didn't like the Jews. Early Christianity was as anti-Semitic as almost anything could be. That's where you get the phrase Judaizing. So they decided to reframework belief in Messiah into something that would not look like Jews believing in Messiah. That's why they moved Saturday to Sunday. That's why they did all these other things, so that they would not look like the Jewish believers. This woman wasn't going to be able to stand up and say anything if those guys grabbed her and said, come with us. And they stood her in front of him and they told her, whatever happens, you keep your mouth shut and just stand there. Which is why she's still standing there after they left. Why didn't she run? Was she afraid Yeshua was going to grab her? He's still on the ground. He's kneeling on the ground. He stands up after they leave. It's my opinion. Some people out there are going to argue and get mad at me, but the scripture said she was an adulteress. No, the Pharisees and scribes said she was an adulteress. They accused her, except they failed the test of witnesses. So if she really was guilty, where are the witnesses? No witnesses. That's what basically Yeshua says. He says, where are the witnesses? She goes, no, there aren't any witnesses. He goes, well, I'm not going to be a witness against you. I wasn't there. So he says, go and don't allow yourself to be played this way. Don't allow yourself to be used like this, because you are being used to try to do something evil, slanderous, devil-like. You judge according to the flesh. I judge no one. So they were making this judgment about him through their fleshly eyes. Their I don't like, I don't agree, I don't want you to be. Do you understand the main problem is they didn't want him to be Messiah? Not that they didn't want him to be Messiah. They didn't want a Messiah yet. They didn't want someone that was going to come and take the people's attention away from them, the people's support, the people following. They wanted that all for themselves. So in a sense, I'm going to call this in a very Hellenistic sort of way, they wanted to be like the Greek gods, Roman gods that were always desiring people's attention. They were desiring all this, loyalty to them in a very sort of human way, right? They always painted them as very human gods. Very powerful, but very human. And now they're going forward going, oh, so you're witnessing against, you're trying to witness for yourself. You can't witness for yourself. He says, no, the Father does too. And he goes, look, you would know me if you would knew him. And he's trying to say, you guys don't know the Father. They knew of Yahweh, but they didn't know in a, how do I always teach you this? Knowing is a relational idea, not an informational idea. He's like, you don't know the Father. Remember, I've told you many times, all of you have had this experience at some point where somebody has either accused you of or claimed something about you that you're like, I can't believe you would say that, because if you knew me, you'd know I would never say that or do that. Anybody ever do that? Have somebody, and you're like, I thought you knew me. You know I would never do that. You know I would never say that. Why would you even think that? Well, he's saying here, you guys don't know me, and you don't know the Father. Most people just quote verse 32, and you shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free. What truth? The truth he's been talking about now for about 20 verses. I am the light. Follow me and you won't walk in darkness. I am the son of Adam. I am the one who was sent. I am the one who represents the Father. I speak his words. So he says, again, look at the connection. It's not just, and you shall know the truth. It's and is connected to the previous verse that says, if If you stay in my word, you are truly my taught ones. So staying in my word and being one of my disciples, my taught ones, my Talmudim, then the truth you would know. So knowing the truth comes from knowing him and his teachings, his word. And that is what will make you free. It's not just whatever abstract idea you have for truth or whatever you want to consider as truth. The truth shall set you free. Now, by the way, in general, that applies to everything, not just spiritual. If you find out the truth about your finances, that can set you free from the problems you have there because you can fix it. If you know the truth about your health, that can set you free to fix the things that are fixable. If you know the truth about your relationship, you understand what I'm saying? But you have to know the truth. You have to have a relationship where you actually believe that word, that truth. I can tell you right now, Elder and I talk to you a lot of times about finances, and you guys conceptually, informationally understand the truth, but you don't know it. You don't have a relationship with it. So you don't do the budgets. You don't cut back your spending. You don't look for the better job. You don't retool. You don't do whatever. Knowing the truth potentially can set you free, but you have to know it. But he didn't say just knowing the truth, but you have to be discipled. So you need to be discipled, by the way, in your health, in your wealth, in your relationships, all things. You need mentoring. See, a lot of you get to that place where you're like, I know that I know that I know, but it turns out you're wrong. Anybody ever had that? I mean, man, you were ready to go to town and fight with somebody and go bet the bank on it and everything else only to find out you were wrong. Anybody ever had that happen? Sure you did. What happens is when that starts to happen, though, is you start to find ways to back up the lie or the error, and you defend it, and you find evidence to back up the error because you cannot sit there as a human being in the flesh and the below. It's not comfortable to admit you're wrong. It's not comfortable to be wrong. We can't be right until we understand we're wrong, or at least we have to understand what wrong looks like. Because in some areas, when you came to this, you may already be okay in that area, but you got to make sure that you're being honest, knowing the truth, having a relationship with the truth. Because if you have a relationship with the truth, would it be fair to say you also should then know what the lie looks like? Because if you know what the truth looks like, the opposite then would be the lie. Never get all cocky and haughty and think you're better in some way because you get it and other people don't. Isn't that the problem here? Oh, we're the seed of Abraham. You can't tell us anything. Because remember, you were them. All throughout the Old Testament, Yahweh says to them, don't forget you were them. Don't forget where you came from. Don't forget how dumb you were. Don't forget all the mistakes you made. Don't be so haughty. Be careful you think you stand, lest you fall. Don't go down that road. Because some of you are going to go and make all kinds of posts as we start heading towards Halloween is coming, then Christmas is coming. We know they're wrong. The people doing them don't. It's not your job to straighten that out. You can't anyway. All you're going to do is create a fight and insult some people and that kind of thing. I want you guys to knock it off. I will be very disappointed. I will not throw you out of the congregation or anything like that. I'll just be really disappointed if I find out or see any of you making those kinds of posts. That is not a Yeshua disciple-like behavior. If you are going to be in an adversarial mindset, or you're going to be in a self-sovereign mindset, which is more what they had, and then it turned into an adversarial mindset against him. But what caused it to go adversarial? It was adversarial to protect themselves, right? To defend their self-sovereignty, to defend their ego and pride, to defend their position in the community, because they felt there was a threat. All leadership, including myself, hopefully, and Elder, but all leadership in history within the believing community, all should have been excitedly awaiting passing the baton on to Messiah. Happy to have him take that role, not protecting their role. I'm telling you right now, he shows up, I'm very happy to say it's all yours. Happy. It's all yours. Okay, I enjoyed doing what I did, and I was very, very blessed to have the opportunity, but it's all yours. I did the best I could to get him ready for you, but it's yours.